Last week, we looked at the subject of verbs modifying nouns and multiple tenses. So this basically means using verbs as adjectives to describe a noun. So usually we mark nouns as objects to which we apply a verb. For example, tempura o tsukurimasu or hashi ga tsukaimasu. So we change the particle here to say that this is a potential verb. This is an ability verb. Eigakan ni ikimasu and kuruma o unten shimasu. So we can sometimes change this particle, but generally we have some kind of object, maybe a noun or a task here, and then we have a verb, often. But we can also use verbs before a noun to modify the noun itself before we go on to incorporate that subclause into the rest of the sentence. So the structure of doing this, and this of course is common in almost all of our Japanese, when we're using a verb to modify something, as we've done before, we'll normally have this in the plain form, and then the noun, and then we can have either a state, des, deshita, de wa arimasen, or we can apply a different verb. This becomes then the primary verb in the sentence. I'll just highlight this. So we call this verb before the noun the modifying verb in comparison with other verbs in the sentence. Any questions so far? That's good. The tense of the modifying verb says something about the status of the noun. For example, if I say tsukatta naifu desu, so this is, I've underlined this to say that this is referring to the des. So this is still the knife I used. But see, I've put tsukatta into the past tense to say this is the knife I used, not this is the knife I'm using. Tsukatteru knife desu, so des is still being represented by this is, then tsukatteru, the knife I am using. Tsukatteru knife desu. And if I put this into the plain present tense, tsukau knife desu, then this is the knife I will use. Often, tsukatteru and tsukau knife can be interchangeable. So the knife I will use, this tsukau, is both used to mean something happening in the future and also something that's happening as a routine on a regular basis. So if it's the knife I'm using, I can use tsukau knife desu or tsukatteru knife desu. These are pretty much the same. Now, the tense of des in these sentences also says something about the noun. For example, tsukatta knife desu, this is the knife I used, compared with tsukatteru knife deshita. Let's think about how these two differ from each other. So in this case, tsukatta knife desu, the knife is still retaining the status of being the knife that I used. But if I turn this to deshita, what does this mean now? This was the knife I was using. So this might suggest something else. This might suggest that maybe, go ahead, David.
You might not be using that one anymore.
Exactly, yes. It's now completely changed its status to something of the past. I'm not going to use it anymore, and maybe I'm going to use a different knife. Or maybe this noun has now changed into something else. For example, I don't know, say
this is the fork I'm now using.
Yeah, or maybe this was the knife that I used, but I melted it down and now it's become nail clippers. So the state of that noun has now completely changed. Either, as you said, David, either it's no longer the case that you're using that knife, you're now using another knife, or the noun itself, the object itself, has changed into something else. Therefore, deshita can be used to suggest that something doesn't hold the same status as it used to. And you could probably imagine actually doing this with people as well. She was the person who worked on reception, but now she works in the office, for example. 彼女が受付で働いてた人ですが、今は事務所に働いてる人です. So the person herself has changed. So here we've got an example. これは毎日運転する車でしたが、先週からこれは毎日運転する車です。Let me just quickly change that with put an E in there. So, Sophie, would you like to have a go at translating that sentence? Just a second. Let me put it back up again. This one here. これは毎日運転する車でしたが、先週からこれは毎日運転する車です。
This was the car that I used to drive, but since the weekend, this is the car that I'm driving.
Excellent. Yes, good. This is the
Now.
car I'm driving every day.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly this. Yeah. This was the car I drove. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, because I was studying this again and again, I was doing the translation, and I know that we said it extensively last week, but it makes more sense. We were using kore wa mainichi unten shita kuruma desu ga. Makes much more. I mean, for the Italians and Greek, if it's something that we say that the state is no longer existing or for some reason is not more, you need to put the tense that it's done and in the past and not gonna repeat it again, even though if it's in the past.
Yes.
So I was thinking.
Yeah, so this is slightly difficult. Because it's difficult to find any rules about this online or in books because it's a really complex sentence. But B, this is almost a kind of artifact of Japanese language, that the main state of something is always made by the final state or verb in a clause. So deshita in this case, or shimashita, or maybe putting the verb into the past tense or the future tense. And this is basically a subclause. Now, if we do the same thing in Japanese, I think it's slightly, actually, yeah, it does actually change the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, if I've got the combination of mainichi and a verb, then basically this has to remain in suru to say that this is done every day. If I put this as, this is the car that I drove last year, like once, last year in August, then you could put これは去年の8月の運転した車. But then you have to say des. This is the car that I drove, unless now the car has been turned into something else. This now makes the sentence really complicated. So I would say the rule that we should kind of stick to is that if you're talking about something which was routinely done or is routinely done, that this verb state here is kept in the present continuous tense. Into the present plain present tense, the suru, kuru, etc. So the same, we'd have the same thing in English, I think. This was the car that I drove. So this was, and I drove it. It's not this was the car that I drive. This was the car that I drive every day. This was the car that I drove every day. This was the car that I drive. No, we can't say this was the car that I drive every day. We would say this was the car that I drove every day. So we would also put both of those in the past tense. But in Japanese, it's a little bit complex. We have to kind of indicate whether it's something that was done once as an event, in which case you can make it unten shita, or something which was done on a regular basis, in which case you need to say suru. 難しいでしょ?
If it wasn't enough complicated.
Yeah, well, we are into weeks 53, so we're into complex stuff now. Okay. As the plain present form skal can also be used to describe regular routines, it's sometimes interchangeable with the present continuous form skatteru. So we can use either the plain present tense or the present continuous tense. Often they are interchangeable. The main thing to keep your eyes on, guys, is that it's unlikely we're going to make a sentence which sounds like, this was the car that I drove every day, but from last week, this is the car I will drive every day. All we're doing is kind of challenging ourselves to do more and more complex grammar in order to get used to the grammar we've already learned. Okay, any questions? This gets easier with practice, don't worry. Let's have a try. Let's do some examples. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Okay, David, would you like to do this first one?
Every day, 毎日。これは毎日。Right. I'm thinking kakimasu, but that's polite form.
Okay, so it must be group 1, right? So this would be
kakupendes.
kakupendes. Okay, so this is the right sentence construction. これは毎日 kakupendes. Only trouble is, if I want to write a sentence like, this is the picture that I draw every day, then this ends up using the same verbs. これは毎日描く絵. So 絵 is picture. Des. So, or for example, no, let's turn this to something a bit more similar. This is the letter that I write every day. This is much closer. This. Now we have to look at these and say, well, in English, how are these different? So this is this is a letter that I write, and this is a pen I write with. So mainichi kaku.
This would be Scal then, because you're using it.
Right, exactly, yes. Yeah, Scal. This is the pen I use every day. Yes, good. Okay, Jock, over there is the thief that stole my wallet.
あそこはが、は。
So I think asoko ni is probably better, Jock. Asoko means that is referring to that place. But if you want to say the person over there, then you can use asoko ni to mark it as a location.
Okay. 財布を盗んだ人です。
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. What's the thief, Jock? Remember?
泥棒。
Dorobo. Good. Dorobo. Konstalinka.
盗んだやつ。
Or yatsu. Yeah. This is the tree that fell over 50 years ago.
I had the same one last week.
I thought so, yeah. This is the sentence that you did last week. Do you remember how to do it?
これは、this is このは。
Yep.
50 years ago, これは、50前に。
So we need to put a year in there as well.
これは50年。
Yes.
50年前に。
Yep, good.
I'm trying to remember which of the two I'm going to use the verb. Os. I don't remember it. To fall.
Yeah, so if you look at the screen a second, we've got a few options here, but there's actually only one of them is correct. So you're probably thinking of otosu or chiru, but these mean actually to drop, like vertically.
To let drop. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a word which we actually, maybe we can draw it back to Iaido. So you do Shinden? No, you do Jikiden or Shinden?
Shinden.
Shinden, okay. So you'll know of the kata called Oroshi.
Yeah.
So there's this bit where you place the sword on the opponent's chest, put your hand on the back of the sword, and you drag them to the ground. So this technique is called hiki. It's a compound verb, hiki taoshi. So this comes from hiku, to pull, and taosu, to collapse. This is a transitive verb. For you to actually make something fall over. Hiki taoshi. Now, so what do you think the intransitive version of this would be?
Tauru.
I would think that as well. And I spent years speaking to Japanese people saying taoru, not realizing that taoru only means towel in Japan.
Ah, no.
Yeah, and actually it's taoreru.
Ah, Taureru. Okay, makes sense. Because it needs to be group, not must be, but needs to be group 2. Taureru.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it could, yeah, sometimes often it changes group, but yeah, taoreru. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So Taureta.
Good. Taureta.
Kides.
Very good. Yeah. Exactly. So let me just point my camera down. See this piece of furniture here? It's a chair made out of wood. I could say, これは50年前に倒れた木でした. This was the tree that fell over. This chair was the tree that fell over last 50 years ago. And now it's not a tree anymore. It's a chair.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where deshta would be used. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to force the door open. Hang on. I've just noticed we don't have any negatives in here, so I'm going to throw one in. These are not the droids that you are looking for. One at the end. Okay, Sophie. There is a car that costs 5 million yen. Oh God, numbers.
There's a car. Okay. Arewa? 5 million. So go Yakuman.
Good. Go Hyakuman.
N again. N.
Good.
Cost.
Remember this to say something costs or something consumes something.
Consume.
Can anybody help?
No. Cost. Consume.
Kakaru.
Kakaru. Yes, kakaru.
Kakaru. Okay. Kakaru kuruma desu.
Very good. Excellent. Kuruma desu. Well done. David, that is a sword that cuts well. So can you just give me a second, guys? I'm going to just message Spiros because he's the only person who was actually who said that he was coming to the session. He's probably forgotten that we were at a different time. Spiros. The new EKF vice president, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations to him.
Yeah, Greece is moving up.
I wouldn't see this as moving up. Oh dear.
So who's he replaced?
Jolt.
Badadi.
Yeah. Okay, David, back to you.
What? Okay. Saw that cuts very well. Sore wa yoku kiru
Mm.
no katana desu.
So we don't need no in there.
Oh, yoku kiru katana desu.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Excellent. Good. Jock. She's a student who can paint very beautiful pictures.
Kanojo wa
Kanojo wa
sugoku kirei e o.
kirei. Okay, I'm going to put a little thing in there. Oh,
Kirei na
okay, cool. Kirei na. Oh,
e o. Kakeru gakusei desu.
very good. Gakusei desu. Excellent. So this is in the potential form though, isn't it, Jock?
Well, who can paint?
Yes, yeah. This
Is
is fine.
able to paint.
Yeah, this is fine. So this means this particle here needs to be
Ga.
ga. Exactly, yes. Kirei na e ga kakeru gakusei desu. This could also be, for example, we can use kirei in the adverbial sense, which is why I put those two gaps there. Kirei ni is also fine to say she can paint very beautifully. Of course, the sentence is slightly different. The literal translation is slightly different, but the meaning is more or less the same. Cool, good. Then Costa linka, return to the computer. Ahora.
I'm here.
Speak in a language that you understand. This is a command.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay.
That was Aramaic, wasn't it?
Aramaic. Oh,
Aramaic. The
Aramaic.
language,
Christ.
the language that Christ could understand.
yeah. Speak Hanas. Okay. I'm trying to understand which one I'm gonna use as a verb, as a command. Jeez.
Well, I mean, what's this actually shouting to somebody? What is the command?
Speak.
Yeah, exactly. Speak. So this is going to be at the end, isn't it?
In language is?
You've got a choice. If it's foreign language, it's kokugo. If it's any language, it's gengo. Or if you can also use just words, kotoba. But gengo, I would say, is probably the best one to use generally for language. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna put first wakaru o genko.
You say wakaru o?
Yes.
No.
No.
We don't need a particle between.
We don't. Okay. Wakaru genko. Hanaseyo.
Oh, good. There's a little thing here. Hanase. Was it? How'd you say it again? Hanaseyo.
Hanaseyo.
Okay. Very good. Okay, nice. What particle do you need here?
There you need to put the particle. Go ga. Ni.
So for that's good. By way of.
De.
Very good. Yes, good. De.
I need to think about a step ahead, like by the way of understand. Yeah, that's
it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sophie, can the person who ate the cake please stand up?
Kekio. Tabetta.
Good.
Okay, the person hito.
Yes.
Hitoga.
Yep.
Okay, so we have the compound. Tachi agate kudasai.
Very good. Tachi agate kudasai. Excellent. So I think in this case, we want to put this stress on the person who ate the cake rather than the verb to stand up. So this is a good case where wa is a good one to use in this position here, actually. As for the person who ate the cake, please stand up. Yeah. Okay, David, is that the teacher who is teaching at Waseda?
Waseda ni
Waseda.
teaching Oshieru. Actively teaching. Waseda ni oshiete iru sensei desu ka?
Very good. Excellent. Jock, is this the chair that John was sitting in?
これはジョンが座っていた椅子ですか？
Very good. Excellent. Good. Constantina, please wash the used plates.
To wash is arao.
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 Arao, yeah.
Arao. Okay.
Sounds like the antithesis of a Polish word, doesn't it?
And Polish is like worse than Japanese, I think. It's like you're choking all the time.
Yeah, they are on vodka.
Please wash the okay. Okay, wash ara command arate. I'm completely.
It's okay.
Arate Sara. Oh.
So not use the washed plates, but please wash the used plates. So this is the actual object, isn't it?
So the used plates, I'm gonna put it in a passive.
Oh, okay, good.
From chukao to use chukao.
Let's go through the process step by step. So
Chukanara.
let's make the plain negative first.
Chukawanai.
Skawanai.
Chukawanaru.
So we take the nai, skawa, and then now the last step.
Rareru.
Not rareru, but just reru.
Reru. Ah, yes, it's passive. Reru. Chukawa reru. Okay. Chukawa re. Is desta Chukawa re. Completely.
Okay, so this is the verb in its present tense, and then this needs to be put into the past, doesn't it? Into the plain past. So
Yes, that's right. Chukaware masta.
We have to put it in the plain form though.
Okay, I have it. Chukawareta.
Perfect. Good.
Chukareta. Sarao. Sarao. Arate kudasai.
Very good. Arate kudasai. Very good.
3 days later.
That's okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just practice, isn't it? Sophie, I took the dead cat to my neighbour's house for a birthday present.
Yeah.
only the cat. I know only the cat. Okay, Neko. But then
where is Lucas when we need him? Because he's expert with dead cats.
So do you remember the verb to die, Sophie?
Shinu.
Shinu, yeah. So the dead cat would be.
So it's a dead cat. Shinda.
Shinda.
Shinda neko. Okay, it's doing something. Or neighbors.
There's a few different words for this. Actually, I mean, if you look in the dictionary, there's actually a specific word for neighbor, but the one that I always hear is kinjo. I don't really hear the other one that's in the dictionary. It's something like ryuki or something. Let's have a quick look. Neighbor. Neighbor. Rinjin. But we don't really. I've never heard this word before. Kinjo is much more.
Kinjo's neighborhood, is it?
Yeah, but we can say Kinjo no ie ni. Then this is your neighbor's house.
In the dictionary, it says the reign emperor, Kinjo.
Maybe it's maybe it's Kinjo. Sorry, Kinjo. Sorry, I think it's Kinjo. Kinjo with a, not with a double O. Sorry, it's Kinjo. What are you doing, Sophie?
Okay, I'm looking at. It has tonari. No, it's the one that is beside. Okay.
Yeah, so tonari would be the person exactly next door to you. It may not be one that's just close to you.
Okay, so it's to the neighbor ni.
So Kinjo just means neighborhood. So this you need to say the house of the neighborhood. So Kinjo.
So no. Yeah. Ni.
Good.
Oh, I took it. Motte ikimashita.
Very good. Well done. Good. Excellent. David, look towards the enemy who is coming to cut you.
Coming to cut you. Come is it's just kuru in this instance, isn't it?
Kuru. Yep. Good.
Yeah. Kuru teki ni.
So that's fine, but I want this bit included as well.
Kite kuru teki ni.
This is okay, but for example, sushi o tabe ni ikimasu. This is the sentence form that you need to use, really.
I'm a bit lost here. I was thinking of doing a kiru teki ni, but that's the enemy that you're going to cut.
Right. Or it could be the enemy that is cutting, but
okay. Kiru teki or kuru ni? No.
No. So think of this form here. Tabe ni ikimasu. This means go to eat. So come to cut would be do some juggling in your head.
Teki o kite kuru ni?
No. You're going to have teki in here. We'll put this in first. Now, what's he doing? Let's modify him. What's the primary verb that he's doing at this moment?
Kuru.
Yes, good.
Coming towards you.
Yeah. And what's he coming to do?
To cut me. So is it just kiru kuru?
No, use the same form here as we got here. Tabe ni ikimasu. That means go to eat. So come to cut would be.
I've already got kuru in there.
But you haven't got cut.
Oh. That's just kiru. So I'm having a brain derp here.
That's good. Right. So the way to do this is to put the verb that you're going to do.
Is it kita?
No, hang on a second. No. Coming or going to do. Put this into the mass form. And then remove the mass.
Oh, kiri teki.
Yes.
Kiri kuru teki ni.
But sorry, just a second. We also need ni in there as well. Coming to do.
Kiri ni kuru teki ni.
Yes.
Two knees.
Hang on a second. Okay, Sophie, hopefully. How's it going? Kiri ni kuru teki. Kuru teki ni. Hai, dozo.
Mite.
Mite? Yeah, good. Okay, good. Excellent. All All right. John, move closer to the people who cannot hear you.
聞こえない人たちに、
人たちに、
近くに移動して
移動して
ください。なさい。
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no please really, is there?
No, except so we can say just shinasai, can't we? Ido shinasai. Good. There is actually a verb for moving closer to something or approaching. Does anybody remember this?
近づいて。
Yeah, chikazuku is the plain form. Chikazuku. So.
近づいてください。
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Let's put this in.
ついてなさい。
If you can do it into that form, it will be chikazuki nasai. So put it into the mass form and then just put nasai in the place of mass. Good. And then finally, Constantina, these are not the droids that you're looking for.
Okay. These are not. Droid.
So we really want to put the noun at the end of the sentence so we can modify.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, miru.
So to search and to look for. And can anybody give me? Sagasu. Yeah, to search.
Okay. Sagasu Sagasu iru because it's looking. No?
Yeah, can you say again?
Sagasu iru.
Not sagasu iru. We have to put the sagasu into the te form, don't we? This is actually a group one verb.
Okay. Yes. Sagaste iru.
Very good. Sagaste
iru. Kono droid.
No. Put the droid after the verb.
At the end. Okay. Yeah. Miru. Mite.
No. So what we're saying is this or these are not the droids that you're looking for. So you're looking for is already there. Sagashitiru.
Okay.
Now this
droid,
is a droid. Yeah, whatever that is in Japanese.
Yes. Or
saying these are not. So the droids.
I would have said dewa arimasen.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
You don't need any particle. Okay.
No. Dewa arimasen. Think about how you make any other state verb. Kuruma dewa arimasen.
Okay.
But if you want to have a ga, this is at the beginning, isn't it? Kore ga.
Yes.
Also,
yes,
kore wa sagashiteru droid dewa arimasen.
Yeah, makes more sense. I was more confused. No, the dewa arimasen. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if we have this at the moment says this is not the droid that you are looking for. And I know that before we've said there aren't really plurals and singulars in Japanese. Well, there are ways of doing it, of inferring it. So, for example, if we want to say he, then this is kare. But if you want to say they, as in a group, if there is just one male in there amongst maybe 900 million females, then we say they in the masculine way, which is kare, and then we put ra on the end, kare ra. Okay, if it's a group exclusively of females, well, she is kanojo, and then they, if it's all females, we did the same thing, kanojo ra. So ra kind of turns it into a kind of plural. We can do the same thing with objects. So kore is this. So Constantina, what do you think they or
Korera.
these? Korera, yeah. Korera is these. Yeah. Now, you're probably thinking, maybe we can do the same thing with us as a group. We can in some cases. If we think of I or me, then this is, of course, well, one of these is watashi. This is actually a Chinese word, to be honest. So if we're going to turn it into a plural, we also apply another Chinese reading, which is tachi. Watashi tachi. This means us or we. We could use a different version of I or we, mainly used by men, but I don't see why women shouldn't use it as well, which is boku. Now we can also turn this into bokutachi to mean us or we, or we can actually use this ora again and use bokura. Bokura. This also means us or we.
And for the you as a plural, are we using it?
So we can use tachi for anata tachi, or kimi is also a kind of very informal, casual word. We can also turn this into you as a group. But I've never heard of anatara or kimiwa. Joe, go ahead.
I've never heard it, but can you say orera?
Oh, you can. Yes, orera is also just like boku. Ore.
It's slangy, isn't it?
It is a little bit. It's kind of a bit casual, but it's perfectly grammatically correct. Orera. Quick look and see if anatara is in there. I don't think it makes any sense. No, there's no anatara. Let's try kimira. No. Oh, kimira is here.
Oh.
Kimira means you guys, buddies, pals, you lot. Kimira we can use. Kim, as you know, especially you, Jock, kimi is really casual, so you can use it with close friends, but you shouldn't use it formally.
Kimitachi is normal, isn't it?
Sorry, one more time.
Kimitachi is
Kimitachi.
more normal, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. But again, kimi is kind of quite casual, so you couldn't use it to a group of 8th dans, for example.
Omae tachi.
Asoka ike. Kue, lunch kue.
I hear that one in anime a lot. Oi, gimme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's really, really casual.
Kisamatachi.
Okay, all good for this subject, guys. This was fairly straightforward, wasn't it? Yeah, cool. Let's clear this and go on to today's little schniffelstaffel. Oh, Sophie's coming back. Good. Stop sharing. So, where we are currently. So we have been using nouns as objects or subjects and putting verbs after them. This is our normal kind of sentence. Or this verb could also be a state like des, for example. And what we've just done today and last week is put a verb before the noun to make this verbs modifying nouns kind of sentence. Now we're going to do kind of almost the opposite of this today, which is to take a verb and nounify it, and turn it into a noun, and then we can then put it into a sentence, which is another either verb or state. When I say state, I mean like des or dewa arimasen. And this is called nominalizing a verb. Nominalizing a verb. If I can ask you to make a note of this word nominalizing, It basically means nounification of a verb, turning a verb into a noun.
Again, it comes to
Sorry, John?
nouning a verb.
Yes, yeah, nouning a verb. Yeah. Sorry, Constantina?
We have introduced this during Sundays, right?
Yes, in
The
fact, we've,
koto.
yeah, exactly. In fact, we've done this as part of our formal lessons as well, which we'll come to in a second. So this is actually a massive subject, and we will use a little bit like yawny. We will come back to this quite a few times, or maybe spend the next few weeks looking at this because we use it a lot actually. But today we're going to just work on two relatively easy ones and just learn to not mix them up. Sorry, Joe, there we go.
I'm trying to stretch.
Oh, is that what you're doing? I thought you're shaking your brain to get it to work.
Two things at once, not bad thing.
Okay, so this subject, nominalizing a verb. So this turns a verb into an object or a subject in a sentence. And actually, we've already done a lot of this stealthily, even in our formal lessons. For example, nama sakana ga taberu koto ga dekimasu. So David, what does this mean?
I'm not too sure what namasakana, but I'm going to assume it's fish.
Oh yeah, nama means raw.
Have you ever eaten raw fish?
No.
No.
This was even before that subject. This was way back in around lesson 6 or 7. Constantina?
Are you able to, is the raw fish being able to be eaten? No.
Sorry, what?
Makes no sense.
Was that English?
No.
Oh, was raw fish able to be eaten?
Yes.
Yeah, this means I can eat raw fish. This is the formal and slightly long way of saying I have the ability to eat raw fish. So we quickly jumped off of this and went into things like tsukaeru, taberareru, and dekiru. We moved away from this pretty quickly. But this is a completely good example of turning a verb into a noun. This is saying the eating of raw fish, namasakana ga taberu koto. Sorry, this should be namasakana o taberu koto. Sorry, let me just quickly change that. Huh? Namasakana o taberu koto ga namasakana o taberu koto ga dekimasu. This is just a way of saying I can eat raw fish. But yeah, the eating of raw fish, namasakana o taberu koto, think of this as a subclause here. Ga dekimasu. I can do it. I can do it. I can do the eating of raw fish. Now this one, Jock. Hawaii ni itta koto ga arimasu ka?
Have you ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah, good. So again, this, I know we did this very early, well, fairly early on, about halfway through the course so far. This is turning Hawaii ni itta, going to Hawaii, into a noun. The going to Hawaii. I have the experience of going to Hawaii. So we've already done some of this nominalization already. And when we use two nouns in a sentence, then we also use koto to nominalize the verb. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, for example, my hobby, this is a noun, my hobby, is climbing mountains. So this is the climbing mountains has to become nominalized into a noun. my hobby, a noun, is climbing mountains. This is also a noun. These are both nouns. Climbing mountains and hobby are both nouns. We connect them with des, but we have to turn climbing a mountain into a noun first using this nominalization. So, David, would you like to have a try at turning this into a statement?
Oh dear. Okay. Climbing mountains.
So mountains
Hobby is just hobby, isn't it?
well, shumi is usually what's used.
Shubi wa yama or what's climb?
So climb is probably a newish verb. It's a little bit like noru to get on, noru, but it's noboru, noboru. Excuse me.
Or noborimasu?
Noborimasu, yes. So if you can now make this sentence again.
Shubi wa yama or noborimasu.
Now this means it sounds like a direct translation of my hobby is climbing mountains, but the climbing mountains has to be nominalized using koto.
Shubi wa
So same as before, yama or
koto.
no, so noboru.
Yama or noboru
Koto.
Noboru koto desu?
Yes, exactly this. It's saying,
Koto desu.
yeah,
Okay.
it's noun A, wa, noun B, des. So for example, a cat is an animal. Neko wa dobutsu desu. As for A, it is B. This is exactly the same. Watashi no shumi wa, watashi no shumi wa, this is noun A. And then we have to turn the climbing mountains part into a noun. Yama o noboru koto. This now makes a now a new noun. Des.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to try again?
Oh yeah. Shubi wa yama o noboru koto desu.
Perfect. Exactly this. Watashi no shumi wa yama o noboru koto desu.
So,
go ahead.
Can I just ask, why can't we say yama nobori wa shumi desu?
You can, but not all verbs can be turned into just, for example, yama nobori, like this. For example, what is making a box? You could say, well, it's hakozukuri to try and sort of force it into this, but this isn't necessarily a well-used nounification of a verb.
No.
So we need to learn nominalization so we can apply it to all verbs.
Okay, well, watashi no yume wa pilot ni naritai.
No, we need to use koto.
Oh, watashi no yume koto wa.
No, hang on. Watashi no yume is a noun, so we can leave that by itself. Watashi no yume wa, and then to become a pilot, this is the part that needs to be nominalized.
Pilot ni naru koto desu.
Exactly this, yeah, exactly this. A wa B des. Watashi no yume wa, that's A. Pilot ni naru koto, that's B des. Watashi no yume wa pilot ni naru koto desu. So, Jock, this is a really good example of where we can't just pair up the object and the verb and make it this, for example, yama nobori. How do we turn becoming a pilot into a single noun? Pilotonari. It doesn't make any sense. We have to learn all of these.
Yes.
And we can apply this to everything then. We don't have to find this kind of unique nounification of a verb. We can just do it in this way. Watashi no yume wa pilot ni naru koto.
But how would it be less understandable if you said pilot ni naru desu?
It doesn't make any sense. It's not grammatically, doesn't grammatically mean anything. It's like saying, my dream is become a pilot. My dream is become a pilot. That's doesn't in English that makes no sense. You'd say my dream is to become a pilot.
Pilot, yeah.
But I wouldn't say next week I to become a pilot. We have to do this kind of even more inconsistent verb conjugation to turn it from a nominalization into an actual statement of intent.
Okay, thank you.
So to any other, are we fairly happy with this? Let's do one more example as Constantine is here as well. So Constantine, how do you say my job is to wash plates?
Sexist.
This is for me. You can say Andy's job is to wash plates. Andy's job is to
No,
wash
I'm
plates.
joking. I'm joking. Come on. I can say watashi no shigoto wa osara to wash plate. Osara o I used it today, the wash. Arao.
Good.
Arao koto desu.
Very good. Yes. Watashi no shigoto wa osara o arau koto desu. Good. So this is it. This is the sorry. After you, Constantine.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. It's just that we are using always the simple present. We cannot say it as past, like my job was.
In that case, you'd say watashi no shigoto wa osara o arau koto deshita. In that case.
Okay. So the tense is going to the verb des. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly this. Exactly this. Give you some time to write any notes if you want to. Okay. Sorry, I'll wait for you to finish writing. Now, there's a reason why we're beaming down on this, is because when we are nominalizing a verb, sometimes we will use no, and sometimes we will use koto. And in some cases, they're interchangeable. In some places, they're not. You have to follow a specific rule. This one is a specific rule. If we're going to talk about the doing of something and say it is a noun, like my hobby, my dream, my objective, or my work, we must use koto. We must use koto. We can't use no. For example, if I said, watashi no shumi wa yama o noboru no desu, this is not correct. If we have a noun here before the wa and a noun here, then we have to use koto. We can't use no.
So the no is like the tabemono, nomimono, like the
no, that's mono. Mono means things.
The thing. Okay.
Yeah. We'll come on to the first application of no right now, actually, before we do any further exercises. So what I was going to say was, in a few weeks' time, almost certainly some of you will say, why can't we use no here, and why don't we use koto here? Well, we're going to go, instead of starting off with the ones that we can interchange, we're going to work on the ones that we cannot interchange, where we have to use either no or koto. So we'll grab hold of the concrete rules first, and then later on we'll talk about the things where style dictates. Okay. Right. If our first having a go at nominalizing with no. If we take the verb and the plain form and then put no, then mark this. So no is doing the nominalization for us. And then mark this with either wa or ga. We can put an adjective in here and say des. This thing, this doing of something, is not a noun, it can't be a noun, but if we want to describe it with an adjective, we can use no and wa or ga. If you can write this construction down first, guys, then I'll explain. For example, I could say football is interesting, but I would just, in this case, I would just say Sakkar wa omoshiroi desu. As for football, it is interesting. Sakkar wa omoshiroi desu. But maybe I want to say actually playing football is interesting, not just football by itself. So here I would say Sakkar o suru no, here's our nominalization here, wa omoshiroi desu. Similarly, I could say watching I don't want to play football, that sounds like too much effort, but watching football is interesting. Sakkar o miru no wa omoshiroi desu. So here I've just nominalized the doing of sakkar, or the watching of sakkar, and made a statement about it, an adjective about it, to say it's interesting or fun.
I've seen the why, in use, but never known why.
So I'll explain when to use wa and when to use ga in a second. I just want to be clear now that we've got two different structures here. This is noun and noun, where we have koto, and this is no waga, when we have noun and then adjective. So these are our two pairs. Noun and noun uses koto. Noun and adjective uses no wa or no ga. I probably should have started with the actual rule, to be honest, but I only put this together this morning. Now, this is actually the thing that requires memory and study. Whether you use wa or ga depends purely on this adjective. What? There are billions of adjectives, and we have to learn for each one whether to use wa or ga. But when I show you what the general guidance is, you might start to see some themes. So we use wa when the adjective is tanoshii, omoshiroi, muzukashi, yasashi, hazukashi. This means shameful. Kimochi ga ii or kimochi means feels good. Taihen, difficult or problematic. And kantan. These all use wa. And you'll need to write these down if you don't already have them.
Okay.
Okay.
Then can you give us a bit more time?
Oh, sure. Take your time.
Gosh, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's not so many gas, you'll be glad to know.
Yes.
I don't see any pattern in this, but anyway, I was ready to say, the Thanos with the double E, but no, Taihen.
No. I think there is a pattern, and I'll come to it in a second. But let's just get this bit done first.
Okay.
Okay. The adjectives which use ga are these ones. Okay. Right. Actually, so let's try and think of some guidelines, because of course there are more adjectives than what we've got here. I mean, there are dozens of na adjectives, and there are probably over 100 e adjectives. So it's definitely not a case that if it's an e adjective it goes here, and if it's a na adjective it goes here. This isn't the case. There are too many exceptions. So from the wa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8 are e adjectives, 2 are na adjectives, and out of ga, 1, 2, 3, 4 are na adjectives and 2 are e adjectives. So I sort of trying to find if there's a rule for deciding whether it should go in the wa box or the ga box. The best thing I can see is that these are your subjective experiences of that thing. These are more objective observations of that thing. For example, skides doesn't mean I like, actually. Sushi ga skides doesn't mean I like sushi. If you want to say I like sushi, you say sushi o skimasu. If you want a real literal translation of I like sushi, it'd be sushi o skimasu. When you say sushi ga skides, you're saying sushi is likable. Same thing for kirai. Usually you'd say, if you want to say I hate horses, you'd say uma ga kirai desu. But this doesn't actually mean not literally doesn't mean I dislike horses. It means horses are dislikable. If you actually want to say literally I hate horses, you would say watashi wa uma o kiraimasu. Kirao is a verb. Kirao and suku are both verbs, but nobody uses these. Everybody talks about them in the objective observation way. Sushi ga suki desu. Green peas ga kirai desu. So these are just usually used this way. So I think that the guide would be that if this is wa, then this is your subjective experience of it. If it's ga, this is an objective observation of it. Something is likable, somebody's good at doing something, somebody's bad at doing something, something is fast, something is slow. This may not be the actual solid rule, but it seems to work so far with the main ones that I've seen in textbooks and websites.
So that means that if it's not an absolute rule and we want to speak objectively, we can use the tanoshi as objectively, so we can use ga.
No. If you're going to say that anything is tanoshi, then you should use wa. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I mean, it's not vice versa. Like if you're using it subject, as I understand, maybe my English is not good. If I want to say the tanoshi, you say it as a subjective, but it's not always subjective.
So the nature of these words are that you actually kind of experience them. So if you want to say, for example, iaido wa tanoshi desu, this is saying iaido is enjoyable, but it already means in terms of your experience of it. You're saying I feel that it is enjoyable, tanoshi desu. But these are actually much more. These, I mean, for example, these 1, 2, 3, these 4 here, na adjectives. These are basically nouns by themselves anyway. This means likability. this means hateability, this means ability, and this means disability. And then fast and slow are also objective qualities of an object, aren't they?
So it's not a question about if it is slow or fast.
Whether you experience it this way, this is saying that something is slow or fast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of these, the ones you see here, use the rule wa or ga. For any other adjectives that you're not sure about, then all I'm saying is I would suggest that if it is an adjective that you experience yourself, then it should go in the wa category. If it's an objective quality of the object, then put it into the ga category. That seems to be the rule. Yeah. Okay, so the rest of this lesson I'm going to dedicate to just doing an exercises to make sure we don't mix up these two types. So remember, this is koto is noun and noun. No gawa is noun adjective. Okay, any questions, guys? Cool.
Oh.
Whoa.
And the second, koto is noun and noun.
Yep.
And noa.
And noga are noun and adjective.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Mm.
Now, before we carry on doing the exercise, I'm going to make a little note at the top, just so that it's clear. I'll put the exercises in there first, and then I'm going to put over here noun plus noun is going to be koto, and noun plus adjective is going to be no, wa, or ga. Okay, so we've got that little guide up there if we need it. Okay. David, would you like to try this first one? I like watching TV every Saturday with my daughter.
I'm trying to remember what Saturday is. Doyobi?
Doyobi?
No. Oh, Doyobi.
It's every Saturday.
Is that my Doyobi?
So you would be understood if you said my Doyobi, but it's normally expressed as my shu no Doyobi.
My shu no Doyobi.
Saturday every week.
My shu no Doyobi. Musume no isho ni.
Musume no isho, musume to isho ni.
Oh, to isho ni, sorry.
Yeah.
Musume to isho ni. And this would be like, so this would be a ga. This would be a
Good.
terebi or
To watch. Are you frozen, David? Yeah, he's frozen, I think. Always had some kind of episode. Jock, would you like to finish? I will leave this for David to finish off in a second. Jock, would you like to try this one? Jenny's
not
hobby
really.
is click.
hello?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh, thank you,
cool.
David.
So we've
I
got
don't
up
know
to
what
this.
happened there.
You must have lost the internet or something. So we're up to this part here. Terebi o. Oh, he's frozen again. Okay, back to Jock. Jenny's hobby is collecting stamps.
Oh dear. I really have no idea where to start. Jenny no shumi. Wa kite atsumarimasu. Kite o
So atsumeru,
Meru koto desu.
this. Yeah, exactly this. We now lost David completely. Feel sorry for you two guys. You've got a lot of work to do.
No.
That's a private lesson.
Exactly, yeah. How about this one, Constantina?
Okay, driving to work in the morning is not enjoyable. So the tanoshi is with the wa.
Good.
So I'm gonna use the no.
Good. Yes.
Shigoto ni
Mm-hmm.
asa no unten. I'm trying to understand where I'm gonna put what.
Yeah, so I think asa ni, a time reference, should be there first.
Okay.
Yeah. Asa ni.
Asa ni shigoto ni unten suru no.
Good.
It's not tanoshi de wa arimasen.
Okay, so what's the, is it ga or wa?
Wa.
Wa, good. And then you can't say tanoshi de wa arimasen. That's Japanese lesson 3. So you'd say
it's not enjoyable. Tanoshi. It's tanoshi. Tanoshi kunai desu.
very good. Tanoshi kunai desu. Very good. Hi David, welcome back.
Oh, well, that was embarrassing. My router rebooted itself.
It happens. It happens.
Cool technology. Miru no ga suki desu, I think.
Miru no ga suki desu. Very good. Exactly this. Yes, excellent. And David, you got this one here as well. My target is to pass my geography exam this winter.
Target. Would this be mokuteki?
Mokuteki's purpose, target is mokkyo.
Mokkyo.
Yeah.
Pass my geography exam. So, this winter. So, would this be kon fuyu?
Kotoshi no fuyu.
Kotoshi no fuyu.
Fuyu.
Watashi no mokyo wa geography.
Anybody remember?
Chiri.
Chiri. Or just chiri. Chiri is fine.
Chiri no shiken. Or gokaku suru koto desu.
Very good. Or gokaku suru koto desu. Very good. Excellent. Well done. Jock, studying kanji is difficult when you are tired.
Tsukareru.
Tsukareru.
Toki. Kanji no benkyou. Wa. Muzukashii desu.
Yeah. Muzukashii desu. Who's ringing me? Nobody important. Muzukashii desu. Okay, so here, this is already a noun, isn't it? Kanji no benkyou. So this is fine. This is fine. How would we put this into the nominalization of the verb though, Joe? So we'll leave this in for the time being.
Kanji no benkyou suru koto.
Yeah, kanji no benkyou suru koto.
Still wa though.
Sorry, not koto. This is now a Yeah, suru.
Suru no ga.
No. Wa.
Wa. Ah, yes. Muzukashi desu.
Yes, good. Muzukashi desu. Excellent. So the question I'm going to ask is, tsukareru or a different tense?
Tsukareteru.
Yeah, I mean, tsukareteiru is fine. This means when you are tiring. I think usually for saying the status of being tired, this means you have already tired. You have already gone through the process of becoming fatigued. Usually this is put into the past tense. Yeah, tsukareru toki. Yeah, but tsukareteru toki is fine as well. I think tsukareru toki means when something is tiring, it turns the focus of that verb from you onto the thing which you are experiencing. For example, kudaranai hito o kiku koto ga tsukareru. Listening to boring people is tiring, right? Yeah. So in that case, the tsukareru kind of, if we turn it into tsukareru, it kind of moves the focus away from your experience of tsukareru onto the thing which actually is you're experiencing. Yeah. Okay. Constantina, my job is repairing computers.
私の仕事は直すことコンピシコンです。
I'm going to say you're doing last week's lesson this week now.
Okay.
It's to repair computers.
直す方
No. So first, what are you actually fixing? What are you repairing?
The computer. PC コンを
Pasokan. Oh, good.
直し方
Oh, no, that means how to repair computers. Not kata, but
こと
yeah, nausukoto, right?
Yeah, I said in the beginning, but I thought I said it wrong. That's why I said.
Oh, yeah, it's because you moved computer somewhere else, so I said no. That's
okay.
not right. Yeah.
Okay,
Nausukoto.
Dash.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, good.
I was thinking something is missing. Okay.
Okay, David, repairing computers is not very interesting, but I have to do it.
How true that is. Okay. Repairing computers. So Pascon or Naosu.
Pasukon o naosu.
Naosu no wa.
Good. Naosu no wa.
Omoshira. Omoshiroi. Omoshirokunai.
Good.
Ga. I must do it. Ga shinakereba narimasen.
Good. Shinakereba narimasen. Well done. Excellent. Good. Chuck, I've not been to Cambodia.
Cambodia ni itakoto wa nai desu.
Itakoto wa nai desu. Or yeah, this is fine. Or itakoto ga arimasen. It's also fine, right? So I think in this case, though, as it's something, basically this sentence is starting with watashi wa. So you are marking yourself as the topic. So this needs to be ga nai desu or ga arimasen. You okay, Joe?
No, just very confused.
On what part?
Oh well, which part is the verb, which part's the noun, and
So this is the verb here. Going to,
Yes, and the
Yes,
other
Cambodia.
half. Where's the
Mhm.
other half there?
it's here. Koto ga nai desu or arimasen. There's the other verb.
Well, is that part of noun or a verb?
This is a verb.
So you've got that's the verb in the verb case.
We haven't done. Hang on a second. So, hang on a second. What we don't have at the moment is the only two combinations we have so far are nouns and nouns, and nouns and adjectives.
Oh gosh. Right. Which is the adjective there?
There isn't one. So we're not having nor, wa, or nor ga. We're using koto, just to say that this is the lesson we've done a long time ago. To say I have the experience of doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can remember that bit, but I
Mm.
can't see quite how it fits into.
It doesn't exactly
What we're
fit into
doing
this.
now.
Doesn't exactly fit into this. This is just another example of using koto. So it doesn't fall into either of those categories. This is just another use of koto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Constantina, going to Cambodia is very difficult in the autumn.
Cambodia ni aki ni
Yeah. Ini.
it's very difficult in the autumn. Okay. Iku no muju wa iki no wa okay muzukashii desu.
Very good. Muzukashii desu. Excellent. Good. David, making Thai food with friends is extremely enjoyable. By this, I don't mean making Thai food out of friends is very enjoyable.
Oh dear. 友達と一緒に
Good. 友達と一緒に
making. So Thai 料理 or
Just remember that ryori suru is actually a verb in itself.
Thai 料理 or Thai 料理 or する no. What's which one do I use? するのは 楽しいです。
What about
楽しい
what about extremely? David? Can you think of a superlative for extremely?
extremely 最強
Saikyo? Yeah.
最大
Sai. Do you mean saiko or sai?
Yeah, 最高 sorry
Saiko.
楽しいです
Yes, good. Tanoshi desu. Excellent, good. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, surely there's an easier way to do this. Maybe I could do this sentence by saying Tai ryori and delete that, because Tai ryori is also Thai food. But this now says something different. This now says Thai food with friends is extremely enjoyable. It doesn't mean making Thai food with friends is enjoyable. Yeah. Yes. Okay, Jock. Assembling furniture feels good in a new house.
新しい家で
Yeah.
家具を組み立てることが
This is going to be an adjective. This is going to be an adjective here, though.
If so, that has to be Noah.
Noa.
気持ちいいんです。
Yes, good. Yeah, kimochi. But you can just say kimochi desu. Kimochi desu. Constantina, walking in good weather in the mountains feels so good.
True, I did this Sunday.
Ah, nice.
Okay. Feels okay. In the mountains, I can say Yama.
Mm-hmm.
Yama ni.
Yama something.
Yama. There.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing something there.
Yeah.
Yama de. I'm trying to think how I'm gonna say the good weather. Yoku tenki or
Not yoku tenki, but just i tenki is fine.
Okay, i tenki. Yama de.
So i tenki is basically a kind of time reference, isn't it? In this case, ni, yes.
Yama de. Feels so good. That's too many. Too many verbs. Aruku.
It's already here. So okay, excuse me. Aruku, you would be understood if you said this, but to go for a walk, there's actually a specific.
Suru. It's a suru verb.
Yeah. Sampo
suru. Yes. Thinking Yamade. Sampo suru. So this is a subjective or adjective. I can use the no.
Feels good is actually feels good is one of those in that list actually.
Jozu, enjoyable. No.
Jozu means skillful.
Yes. Oh Jesus.
Pretty sure it's there on slide.
Yasashi.
No. Kimochi ga ii or kimochi. Yeah.
I couldn't read my own writing. That's all I need to tell you. Kimochi gai. I burn my brain. Okay. I thinking Yamade sampu suru no wa kimochi ga ii desu.
You can say kimochi ga ii desu. This is fine. Most people these days just say kimochi desu.
With three I.
Yeah, it's kimochi, and then it's dropping the ga and putting e at the end. Kimochi.
Kimochi desu.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. David, I hate cleaning my room.
Watashi no ie or soji.
Not ie, but
Uchi.
And that's house as well.
That's house. That's house. Room. Heya.
Heya.
Watashi no heya o soji suru no wa.
No, look at the list. Look at the list.
The list.
From the previous slide. Which ones are ga? Which ones are wa?
Oh, no ga.
Mm-hmm.
And hate. Hate is just. I think it's daikirai, isn't it?
Yeah. Or kirai.
Or just kirai.
Yeah. Kirai desu.
Kirai desu.
Good. Jock. Martin is very good at playing guitar.
Martin-sanがギターを弾くのことが
This is an adjective though, isn't it? So,
のは
no.
のが
Ga?
上手です。
上手です。
大変上手です。
Yeah, 大変上手です。And Constantina, Marion's not very good at using, not very skilled at using scissors.
Okay. Okay. Using scissors. Should you? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
The scissors. Hasami.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. I remember. Hasami o.
誰ですか?
Marian. Yeah. Marian wa Marian さんはハサミを使うのが
Good.
上手ではありません。
Very good. Jozu de wa arimasen. So the opposite of jozu is the one that's underneath that one on the list, which is heta. Heta des. Yeah, this means unskillful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Heta. Woo! Oh, right, guys, that's the end of the lesson. Let me take you back to that slide though, because I know that this was what I want to say really is that this is already going to be quite a complex and cloudy kind of subject. So for the time being, just make sure that you understand these two applications, because these are solid, exception-free applications. If we're comparing two nouns like your job and doing something, or your hobby or doing something, your objective, your raison d'être and doing something, then use koto. This is one of the applications of koto. If we're describing a verb, either in a subjective experience way or an objective observation, then we use no. And what we seem to see, that we divide the adjectives up. Wa for subjective experiences and ga for objective observations of something. Yeah, that's the summary of today's lesson, really. Any questions, guys?
Need to think about these.
Yeah, I mean, rather than just sort of practicing, I think the best thing to do is to do really simple rules or diagrams just showing, for example, this kind of noun plus noun equals kot, or noun kot or noun des, and then noun no wa ga adjective des. Just kind of have sample model sentences to say, right, if we're using this structure, we need koto. If we're using this structure, we use no. In fact, let me just draw this in now as a little summary while we're here, and then you can always grab this if you need it. New slide. That's a little summary. So a verb, I'm going to put this as nom for nominalized, which basically means a noun plus noun. Actually, sorry, this should be noun. Sorry, don't copy this out yet. Noun, for example, hobby, job, adjective, plus verb nominative equals use koto. And then verb nominative wa adjective this is that equals use no wa or ga, and wa seems to be subjective experiences adjectives, ga seems to be objective observations adjectives. Okay, that's basically what we have to memorize for today. Final question before we go. So let me ask you to, I'll wait for you to finish writing this down.
Okay.
Okay. What about this though? Look at this one here. Yama o noboru koto wa watashi no shumi desu. Is that the same? Yama o noboru koto wa watashi no shumi desu. Does that have the same meaning as this one? This is the literal translation. Watashi no shumi wa, that's my hobby. It is climbing mountains. Yama o noboru koto desu. But what about saying Yama o noboru koto wa watashi no shumi desu? If I swap the positions of this around. A wa B desu. Is that the same as B wa A desu?
In this instance, climbing mountains is my hobby. I'd probably say yes.
Yeah. I think if we limit it to saying it's my hobby, then or putting yourself as the main topic, you can swap these around. But just as all swans are birds is not the same as all birds are swans, I think we have to be a little bit careful if these sentences become a bit more general. So yeah, just have to be careful to, I think, just mark in each case where you're making the subject, the topic. So my hobby is means my hobby is the topic of the conversation. My dream, this is the topic of the conversation. My job, that's the topic of the conversation. So they're the ones which I think we should make a habit of putting those first in the sentence, rather than saying climbing mountains is my hobby. Okay, does that make sense, Joe? No?
I think I need to think about this
Sure, okay.
for a bit.
Sure, okie dokie.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, guys, before we finish? All good? Okay, お疲れ様でした。
Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the weather.
ありがとうございました。
Beautiful
Stop.
again.
Yeah, nice.
日曜日の晩はどうですか?
Ah, so isn't it? So it's not on this week. I'll send an email out today. It's going to have to be. Oh, sorry, Nichiobi no ban. Nichiobi no ban. Okay, Andy's Japanese corner is on, but we won't have a session.
先週の前の日曜日の晩。
Ah, essential Nichiobi. I was just tired, and it was a lovely day, and it
も
was a bank
うどうで
holiday.
すか? どうですか?
どうですか? どうでしたか? Oh, どうでしたか? It was nice. It was nice just not have anything on a Sunday night and just kind of chill. And yeah, I was just exhausted from last week, so it was nice to have it. So thanks for your acceptance of my holiday.
Obviously.
Tomete
A break
kure.
from the erotic thing of
Yeah, that was a bit. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to spend an hour preparing the lesson before we even start. So let's just leave it for tonight. Yeah, the weather was too good.
Anytime.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Ta-da.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.